All right, welcome back. We're here for part 3 of debunking Islamist lies, deception, and racism. We're talking here to a girl named Canaan, but turns out her name is not Canaan because she's Turkish, and so it is pronounced Janan, something like Janan, like the June or Jan. That means deer, that Pashtuns and Persians add to the end of names and things to mean dear one. So this is Janan, a Turkish girl who has quite the grudge against Jewish people. So let's jump into some of her recent comments where she is continuing this dialogue and this conversation, and props to her for doing so, because it's the only way that we can understand one another and get past the ugliness of this world. So she says here, "You Zionist. I'm talking about the Ottomans, don't you understand? Since I'm Turkish, what else can I talk about? Is this all you know about history? Wasn't there anything before 1880? Sure there was. We saved you from death countless times. If so, thank you. We were already a vast empire back then. Yeah, maybe a bit too vast. I mean, people talk about the Turkish people genociding the Armenian people. I don't know exactly where that fits in, but it's something that is important to bring up here, because whole nations have ugly things in their past, but that doesn't mean I'm going to now hate you as a Turkish person just because your nation has done things that are reprehensible. We were already a vast empire back then. You came to us begging, and we took you because you were oppressed. Search this event. The Ottomans saved thousands of Jews from execution in Spain in 1492. I looked it up. Thank you so much. It is appreciated. When we do the right thing 500 years ago, it's wonderful. Okay, it wasn't you, your ancestors perhaps. It's a good thing. I saw the king there said something very, very nice about Jewish people, how basically the Spanish were idiots for giving up like these amazing people and for getting rid of these jewels. And so, yeah, different people do good or bad things throughout history. Does that mean it reflects on you, a Turkish person? No. Does that mean it reflects on me, a Jewish person? No. It just is what it is. It's the past. So thank you very much to your ancestors for doing the right thing in taking in Jewish people who do good and are good parts of society. And let's keep going. Murderous Zionists and evangelical Christians who support the massacres. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Like, I have no idea what you're talking about here. If you're talking about the war in Gaza, it's really hard to call that a massacre. The war in Gaza is a result of the October 7th insane terror attacks. And the purpose of those terror attacks was to make Israel, force Israel to have such an extreme reaction to it that the whole world would turn against it. That's part of the thought process behind why October 7th was as absolutely insane as it was. It truly was not only the most insane terror attack against Jewish people since the Holocaust, but they say it was worse because here they GoPro'd the whole thing. They were proud of it. They were so happy. They called up their parents. Mom, Dad, I killed 10 Jews with my own hands. There's audio. These are real things that happened. And throughout the day, dozens, just the craziest things. Hopefully you educated yourself a little bit by now on October 7th, but to call the war that was a reaction to the October 7th massacres a massacre is wrong. That's not how it works. If people come and massacre you and your families and babies and children and women, like, you have to go to war against them. You have to defeat them. You have to make sure this can never happen to your family again. That's not called a massacre. That's called a war. The reason that there's a lot of ugliness in this war is because Hamas hides behind civilians. They hide underground. They don't let civilians underground. They never built a single bomb shelter for their civilians. They go underground. They fight from behind. They fight in civilian clothes. They have the tunnel entrances in kindergartens and in mosques and in schools. And they have armories with tons of weapons in schools. Like, they're not normal. It's not a normal war. It's a very, very difficult war to carry out. So the fact that innocent people will pass away is a natural part of any war. And it's just unprecedented, the lengths to which Israel has gone to prevent civilian casualties by calling people up, by pamphlets. I mean, you see all that destruction, and yet the death toll is low. It's very, very low for a war of this scale, and that's because it's like a 1-to-1 ratio of combatant to civilian. It's unheard of. And the reason it's so low, actually, is because of them calling up and texting and flyers and roof knocks, sending little bombs just to tell people to get away, evacuating them. It's unheard of, the lengths, and especially because nobody wants them and nobody will take them and nobody will give them refuge somewhere else for safety. Nobody will accept them anywhere. Nobody will accept it. It's unprecedented in a war. The Syrians, millions of Syrians, sought refuge in Europe. Most of them are still there, as far as I know. But tens of millions of them left, sought refuge elsewhere, and people took them in. But with the Gazans, nobody wants them, and nobody will take them. And so dealing with that is very difficult. So to just say the massacres, again, you're just negating October 7th. You're negating what led to this war. And you can't do that. It's not fair. All right, let's keep going. We Muslims do not believe the news we received from you. Okay. All right, end of our conversation. Let's stop talking. If you're not going to believe anything I say because I'm a Jew, then that's it. You know, become a suicide bomber, God forbid. I mean, what are you going to do? To become a complete bigot, a complete racist who doesn't ever hear anyone's opinion other than what you hear in your echo chamber, that the Jews are the demons and everyone else in the Muslim world is perfect. You want to live in such a stupid reality that makes no sense and that is, you know, not real? You can, but I feel bad for you again. Because in the past, you sowed discord among us by sending spies. Lawrence of Arabia was not a Jewish person. I don't know what you're talking about. Not a Jewish person. Before the Zionist Lawrence sowed discord. Again, Zionism just means believing that Jews have the right to rule in the Holy Land, our indigenous homeland, obviously. Just like you have the right. You're from an empire that colonized tons of land. But if I were to come say, Turkey needs to be split into two, sorry, all of this area, sorry, it needs to go to someone else. Give it all to the Armenians, you hurt them, and so give it all to the Armenians. You could live in like a little quarter within Istanbul, and everything else should go to the Armenians. Like, it's your land. You're from there. You're indigenous to there. I'm from Judea, Israel, Palestine. That's my land. That's the land of my people. In the Bible, it's very, very clear. It's very, very clear. You believe in God. You believe in the holy text. You believe in the prophets. Like, you can't separate these things. The Muslim world fell into the treacherous trap set by you, me, and the Jewish and Christian Zionists, and we paid a heavy price. Are you saying that you lost the Holy Land? Is that what you're so upset about? Like, you can't rule over the Holy Land. It's set apart in the Bible for the children of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. You can read, so please read the Bible. It's not that much. And it's going to be very, very clear. Or watch the video I did about the bond, about the covenant, the eternal covenant between God and the people of Israel. Even if we're punished and kicked out of the land, the promise is to return us to the land. The promise is the ingathering. The promise is the redemption and the Messiah, which is throughout the Muslim and Christian and Jewish traditions. So I feel like you have these different realities, and it's like, we got to bring you together. Now, Muslim countries are ruled by cowardly, mercenary, and treacherous leaders who do nothing, while Muslims are being slaughtered right next to them. Again, you're talking about the Gaza war? Like, are you serious? And did we already establish, you understand now, that 1948 war was begun by all the Arab armies invading the newly established state of Israel in order to genocide them, in order to destroy them completely, throw them into the sea, murder, slaughter all the Jews? Like, that's what the 1948 war was. You have to stop with this idea that, like, Jews are just slaughtering Muslims willy-nilly. Like, no, Muslims are in the IDF defending Israel, traveling the world, talking for Israel. You have to listen to them. They speak in Arabic, if you know Arabic. These leaders work for your Zionist ambitions. What, of world peace? Of a messianic era? of a time when the whole world will be filled with the knowledge of God as water covers the sea? Is this so bad? It sounds so bad to you that people should be aware of the one true God? That's so bad, my Zionist ambition? That's my Zionist ambition, to have a good, beautiful world that includes Muslims, because I like Islam. Not your Islam, that's full of racism and hatred, but normal Islam can be a beautiful religion all religions need to develop. You can't stay in the caveman era. You can't just live exactly like Muhammad lived, because today it's not acceptable. It's just not what we do. We grow up. We all learn from things. We learn, okay? We learn. So you don't do everything Muhammad did, because he didn't do everything right. And I don't do everything that Dina's brothers did, because that's not what we do. Okay, things were more extreme and more intense back then. People were close to God and people had trippy experiences, but we're in a modern era. We're talking through the internet and we need to grow up and create a beautiful world together. And that happens from stopping your prejudice and hatred against people like me for just being a Jewish person. The Zionist ambition is what? It's just peace. It's world peace. That's the Zionist ambition. Big secret. Here, I'm letting you in on my big cabal. That's what we want, peace. And yeah, in order to have peace, everyone has to have their place in this world. And just like I wouldn't demand of you to give up Turkey and that you shouldn't live in Turkey and you don't have a right to Turkey, because obviously you do because you're Turkish, same thing for Israel and Zionism from Mount Zion. We are indigenous to that land. That's our land. It's only been our capital. It's never been the capital of any other empire or state, ever, ever. You will still employ the same tactics. People who dress as Muslims try to convince us that they're Muslims, when in reality they're not Muslims, but spies working for you. Okay, spies? You want to talk about spies? Every country these days has spies. That's just how countries operate in their governments. They have spies. Is that like a thing? You think Turkey doesn't have spies? Come on now. By doing that, you have deceived Muslims by portraying Islam as a religion of terror and Muslims as terrorists, when in fact Islam is a religion of mercy and compassion. Actually, you're getting this totally wrong. 21% of Israel is Muslims, and there is tremendous harmony within Israel. Northern Israel, many places, southern Israel, many places, Tel Aviv even, you see Muslims and Jews alongside one another, getting along, doing a lot of things together, working together in peace. You don't see that in many other places. It's actually in a beautiful place. When people go, they're shocked. But that's the reality on the ground. But you're filled with hatred and racism and dripping with this poison that they're filling you with, these people who told you Muslims aren't behind 9/11 and all sorts of rubbish, absolute rubbish. And Muslims never kill women. Come on, babe. The Prophet Muhammad strictly forbade, again, the killing of women and children in war. All right, well, it happens all the time, and I hope you figure it out. This happens. A Muslim who kills a woman or child disobeys this command and commits a sin. Okay, that doesn't mean they don't do it. That doesn't mean on October 7th they didn't kill tons of women and babies and children. You know they did, and that's why we're in this war. So you can't call it the Jews are just massacring the Muslims. That's not the story, dear. You cruel Zionists. Why am I cruel? Why am I cruel? Why? Why am I cruel? I don't understand. Why am I cruel? How am I cruel? You have not made a case whatsoever that I'm cruel. I didn't do October 7th. Jews didn't do October 7th. Israelis didn't do October 7th. You have to educate yourself on what people are fighting against. You're not even there. You're in Turkey. You're not even anywhere near there. You're in a different reality. You don't understand what's going on. You're part of a colonization movement that wants the whole world to be Muslim by force. Yes, by force, dear. Yes, by force. Through these massacres. They take the women as slaves. Is that so much better when they take the women as sex slaves? Do you like that? That's cool? That's super cool? No, it's not. No matter how much you slander Islam, you will not succeed. Have I slandered Islam once? Nope, not once. Christians and Jews, oh, you hate Christians too? Understanding that Islam is a religion of mercy and compassion are embracing Islam and becoming Muslims. Okay, people are becoming Christians too, and people are becoming Jews too, so one day the treacherous rulers who govern us and work for Zionism will be eliminated. Nope. Again, Zionism, it represents world peace, wanting to make a world that is peaceful, where people are tolerant of one another, where they don't judge people based on their race and religion and gender, like where people are judged by not by the color of our skin and not by our fate, what kind of temple we pray in, but by how we act towards one another in this world, our actions, what we do. That's how God judges us. You think God is like, oh, you're Muslim? Check. You go to heaven. No, 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 no. That's definitely not how it works. Super easy to become Muslim too. You just say a sentence. That's not how it works. That's not how God judges us. God judges us. God sees into the heart. God sees into our souls. God looks at our whole lives. And that's how God judges us. And that's how we need to answer for our actions in the next world when we make it to God at the end of our lives. And the Islamic Union will be restored. Then the oppressors will be punished. All right, get ready to punish a lot of Muslims then. And peace and tranquility will be restored. Restored? We never really had peace and tranquility. Solomon's era was a good time. There were some good times, and we want a good time for everyone. That's what we're working towards, and it doesn't come through making people submit to Allah by force and through things like October 7th. Until you can condemn October 7th, until you can condemn what went on there, like, and not be on that side and not be anywhere near that side, until you can distance yourself from October 7th, you want to blind yourself? You want to blind yourself? That's not how this world works. This will certainly happen. What? This is a destiny decreed by God in the future. What? That the oppressors will be punished? Yes, everyone gets their due. And it's not based on your religion. It's not just like, oh, he believed in Jesus, and so that's it. He's saved. Doesn't matter what he does. That's not how it works. It's not how it works. All right, let's look at another comment. Got so many to choose from Janan. All right, we got two more. Two more that have to do with Theodore Herzl, apparently. While Theodore claimed he would be happy to live in peace with Muslims, claiming a handful of land, what is a handful of land? No such thing, would be enough for the Jews. Yes, Jews did accept a very small state in 1948. They accepted all sorts of things. They just wanted a state for their refugees. I wish you understood this story, because you have it completely backwards. And you need to do serious work to break out of the indoctrination that you were brought up within, because it is strong. But you can do it. We can do it. It's 2025. We can do it. Claiming a handful of land would be enough for the Jews, he also spread false rumors that we were mistreating the Jews. We later realized he was trying to stab the Ottomans in the back by collaborating with England. We asked Theodore what the two horizontal stripes on his flag meant. Who asked him? Where is this story coming from? This sounds like Baba Mises. This sounds like, you know what I mean? This sounds like you just heard this in like your playroom when you were in kindergarten and someone was telling you a story. This isn't like a real story. We. Who we? Like, you're really deep in this narrative right here. We asked Theodore, first name basis, what the two horizontal stripes on the flag mean. The horizontal stripes on the flag represent the talit, the prayer shawl of the Jews. That's what our prayer shawl looks like, the flag. Theodore, the promised land between the Euphrates and the Tigris. Not really. Theodore thought he could, we did a whole video on, by the way, this greater Israel concept. It's a whole other story for another day, but basically there's an idea when in King Solomon's time, there's proper Israel, which is west of the Jordan River, and that's proper Israel. But there's an idea that Solomon ruled over greater lands to the Euphrates, but that doesn't mean there weren't other kings. There were other kings. There were other kings that ruled other nations and peoples within this greater Israel land. But because Solomon and the Israelites are extra blessed by God, who set us apart for the specific purpose of dwelling in the land of Zion and creating a home for God in the lower realms, a beautiful thing if you would only open your eyes and ears to see and hear this reality of God in this one universe that we share together, then you would understand that greater Israel is just an idea of security, having a secure space where we will protect one another from invaders because we get along with one another. That's like the Druze in Syria. They love Israel because they are children of Jethro, Moses' father-in-law, and they want to be under this umbrella, this security umbrella, and they are. We share this land, this space, but it doesn't mean it's only Jews, not at all, or anyone wants to kick anyone out, not at all. That's not happening. That's not what happened. The land west of the Jordan, though, is proper Israel, set apart for the children of Israel. Doesn't mean no one else can live there, the stranger. But just to understand that the land belongs to the Israelites, just like Turkey belongs to the Turkish. No difference. It's inherent within our names and identity. Blah, blah, blah. Who had once saved his ancestors and grandfathers from becoming soap in the concentration camps. You think that's a jab? You think that's going to hurt? My ancestors actually went through those concentration camps, so that hurt a lot more. Theodore had forgotten that if he was breathing and living, it was thanks to the great help the Ottomans had given to his ancestors. Thanks to God. We give thanks to God. If we do the right thing in any given moment, we don't expect that hundreds of years later and thousands of years later, like everyone will constantly be on bended knee. Thank you to the Ottomans, thank you to the Ottomans, thank you to the Ottomans. But thank you to the Ottomans, thank you to the Ottomans, and thank you to the Ottomans. But also thank you to God, because everything is from God. Kullu min Allah. Maktub. So we need to thank God and realize we're in a shared universe with God. Theodore had no intention of living in peace with Muslims. I see no proof of it. You're saying it, but I don't know of any evidence to believe that, and I don't see that because Ben-Gurion, like all the leaders of Israel, they're not racist against Muslims at all. Again, 21% of Israel proper, not including the Palestinian Authority's lands, is Arabs. And wonderful, and they love it, and they're wonderful, and we get along. You just don't know. You just don't know what coexistence is. You don't know what it is to not be filled with poisonous hatred towards a group of people or a nationality just because of their name, just because they belong to Mount Zion, and so they are considered Zionists. And so now you hate them because you associate all these things with it that don't belong associated to it, and that belong associated to the people who you think are so innocent and perfect because they're Muslim. Not every Muslim is a perfect angel, darling. Theodore, who read the Torah but did not understand it, thought that the promised land was given only to the Jews and that it was perfectly normal to slaughter Muslim babies and tear children to pieces for this cause. What are you talking about? I don't know about that. Only the people who were fighting us. We were attacked. We were getting a lot of pogroms even before 1947, 1948. A lot. So, it just doesn't make sense. How do you explain 21% of Israel being Arabs if like Jews are these baby killers who just want to kill Muslims? That's just not the reality. You can go visit Israel and see for yourself that that's not how it is at all. Ugh, what a gross thing to say, really. Oh, child-killing Zionists of the children of Israel. That's just not who we are, darling. That's just who you've been brainwashed to think that we are. That's not who we are at all. I know people. I've traveled a lot. I've spent time with a lot of different nationalities and people in places and families. And that's just not it. The child killers are people like Hamas and the Iranian regime who really abuses girls. Hopefully you know about that. Like Hamas also abuses girls. A lot of societies treat their women very, very badly. And as a woman or a young woman, you need to know this. You need to face this. And not just be like, oh, the Jews are the baby killers. That's not the reality. That's not the reality. I feel like you just think it's edgy to like call Jews or Zionists baby killers. Like, no, it makes you a racist. It makes you a bigot. It makes you anti-Semitic. It makes you a crazy person. It doesn't make you cool. It doesn't make you edgy. It doesn't make you righteous, that's for sure. We already accept that the promised land was once given to you, the Jews, so why don't we just leave this land? Why don't we feel like we've sinned by residing in it? I don't understand what you're saying. Oh, children of Israel, we already accept that the promised land was once given to you, the Jews. Yes, it was. Forever, for an eternal covenant, if you read it in the texts that are not corrupted throughout the texts. It's forever. That's why we were formed, for this purpose. So why don't we just leave this land? What land? I don't know what you're talking about. Why don't we feel like we've sinned by residing in it? What are you talking about? You're saying, why don't Arabs or Muslims feel like they're sinning by living in Israel? Indeed, if the promised land was only given to you, we should be burdened with sin every day we stay there. Not peaceful people. Peaceful people can visit and come through. Every Sukkot, in the fall, there's a holiday of huts where we remember the Exodus from Egypt. And that is a time where nations from all over the world would come to the temple and offer sacrifices. There is a time. And no one's kicking people out. People do live in the Holy Land. Should people be guilty for living in it if they're not like pure Israelites? No, that's not a thing. You can't just make up like things. That's not a thing. God said enough things. We don't need to make up things. Indeed, if the promised land was only, this is where you confuse me, because it's like, you're in Turkey. Like, you're not just Arab, you're Turkish. Indeed, if the promised land was only given to you, we would be burdened with sin every day we stay there. Yet neither the Torah nor the Quran accepts your view. That's not my view. That's no one's view. That's not the Torah's view. That's no one's view. No one says that you should be burdened by sin if you're in the Holy Land and you're not an Israelite. Nobody says that. That's not a thing. You're making this up. Where are you getting this stuff from? Not only the descendants of Isaac, but also the descendants of Ishmael, descendants of Abraham, have rights to this land. Not really, actually, because the Ishmaelites who become the Arabs are given Arabia. They're given a different plot. The land west of the Jordan is specifically given to the children of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And if you read the Bible, it's so crystal clear. I'm not just saying this. It's really, really clear. All right, one more. Oh, cruel Zionists. Oh, cruel Zionists. I'm cruel? Am I being a bigot, a racist? Am I? When I say the Ottomans gave land to the Jews, I mean they gave them homes and fields. Ottomans saved your ancestors from countless massacres and genocide. That's awesome. That's wonderful. Then we should have a bond. You asked me about the Holy Lands promised to the Jews. I asked you something? What did I ask? You said the Jews have no land. Our land is Israel. Period. To understand this, we need to go back to the 1880s. While Ottomans were living with the Jews expelled from Spain, France, Italy, and other countries from Christians, a new pogrom was started in Russia. Because the Russian Tsar was assassinated, the Russians didn't want Jews in their country. Guess where the Jews who emigrated from Russia first arrived? You guessed it, the Ottoman Empire. The Ottomans took these newly arrived Jews and gave them the right to settle in different cities. And I saw the king was saying that the Jews are brilliant and he's lucky to have them, which is very nice sentiment and also accurate. Some of them also wanted to settle in Palestine. We were already granting the Jews living with us the right to settle in Palestine, and we granted this right to these newcomers as well. Well, this sounds lovely. If only you guys were in charge during the Holocaust, when the British were in charge and the Arabs were making sure that the British wouldn't accept Jews, and Jews were being turned back from the Holy Land to nowhere, to Europe, to the gas chambers, because they just didn't want to have Jews in the Holy Land where they belong because the Arabs were upset. It was a real drama. You don't know about it. In fact, the Haredim living in Palestine today are among the Jews we allowed to settle there. They are Ottoman Jews. Okay? There were many types of Jews in the Ottoman Empire, Sephardim, Ashkenazim, etc. Later Zionist movements began. Theodor Herzl met with the Ottomans and demanded a handful of lands. It's not a thing. You don't say a handful of land. That means like a handful of dirt. He stated that Jews were oppressed everywhere and that he would be happy to remain loyal to the Ottomans and live on the lands they would give him in Palestine. Okay, that sounds great. So are we good now? Like, why do you have to hate and, slander all Jews and slander Zionists, which is just Israelites who live in the land of Israel? I just don't get why you have to be so hateful to people when there's really no reason to be. You're saying that you're saying that your people were nice to us. Janan, by the way, I wanted to tell you, June. It's cool because in Hebrew, the third letter of the alphabet is the gimel, which is where you get the j sound also. If you want to make a j in Hebrew, you put a gimel and then a little line on top of it to make a j, because g and j are related sounds. And in English, you have A, B, C, aleph, bet, gimel. And so this is the third letter. And so I sort of see why Turkish is using the C to be a j sound. I just wanted to share that with you because this is a place for education, and this is a place for learning, and this is a place where you can talk to me as a human being and not as someone that you think you have to be, I don't want to curse here, but, rude to. Really, really rude. Calling me names, calling my people names. There's really no reason for it. You guys had your own drama, Arabs and Turkish. And you, of course, with the Armenians also have your own drama. But you've had a lot of drama between Arabs and Turkish. I don't know about that stuff. But what it seems like is like you guys are just trying to gang up on the Israelites and make us to be this demon enemy and just pretend that you're now all hunky-dory and you're all best friends and just you have to only defeat the Jews, God's chosen people who God formed with his hand to live in the land of Israel and create a place for God in the lower realms to dwell on Mount Zion. You think that like you're going to gang up and like beat God. It's a joke. You're not going to beat God. Your Quran is not that powerful at the end of the day. It's very pretty calligraphy. I definitely give it that. Very pretty. But in terms of like the content, read the Bible, see what like a beautiful text is. It's really different and really like lucid, like you just read it from beginning to end. It's one text as opposed to the Quran, which is these little snippet chapters. Little snippet chapters. Oh, and this and that and then and the other and jumping all around. It's very different. So it seems like someone's trying to convince you to hate me when like I'm right here talking to you and you're right here talking to me and we're not that different. We're not that different. We're girls who love God, period. Who love God's prophets, period. Who want there to be a time of peace, period. And in order for that to happen, everyone has to have their space. And you have to understand that just like Turkey is for you, and I'm not going to create some huge propaganda campaign with all this video and TikTok and show people that actually you guys don't deserve your land because you killed all these Armenians, even though apparently there was a tremendous genocide against the Armenians. The Armenians didn't do an October 7th to the Turkish. But I'm not a scholar in that regard, so I'm not going into it. Figure your life out, figure your people out, because you're in a real mess if you think that I'm your enemy. If you think that Jews or Israelites are your enemy and we're these terrible, terrible people, and because Lawrence of Arabia believed that Jews should be able to live in Israel, therefore, like, it's just, you're so twisting everything, and it's just silly. It's silly, Janan. Grow up, please. All right? So let us know when you stop being a bigot and a racist. We really all look forward to that day, because in that day, there will be a tremendous peace that comes over the land when Janan declares, I will no longer be a racist and a bigot and anti-Semite against people I don't know anything about, just because I was told to be in my local mosque and my local school and my local family and uncle and whatever the heck is going on in your world. Like, when you can break out of this, peace will spring forward throughout the land. That's what it starts within us. If we can be that peace, we need to be that peace. You're not in war. You didn't do October 7th. This conversation would be very different if you were behind October 7th. But you have nothing to do with this conflict. You have nothing to do with it. And congratulations, you had a big empire at one point. You don't anymore. And certainly anyone who tries to hold on to the land of Israel and not let Jews and Israelites live in that land are not going to do very well. They're not going to do very well. Anyway, I think this is enough for now. I hope I make a difference with this video. I'm not really trying to like destroy you and tear you to bits, but like you're being a racist and a bigot and an anti-Semite, and I'm not holding anything against you or any person. You know what I mean? Like, see people as individuals. See people as human beings created by God. You don't know people's stories. You don't know. And instead of being inquisitive and interested, you're just like slandering an entire people that you clearly know nothing about. You don't know us. And you don't know what our enemies have been doing. You don't know what happened in 1948, and you don't know what happened on October 7th. You don't understand this situation. You don't understand it at all. You are filled with poison and lies. So hopefully you will reconsider some of these things and learn about actually what happened, how Israel has defended itself in defensive wars against enemies, brutal enemies. Because yes, we are meant to live and thrive in the Holy Land of Israel so that the whole world can have a time of peace. Because God has order. God wants there to be order out of this chaos. And God gives us instructions on how to achieve this. And part of it is through not being, prejudice when we're judging one another, when we're being little judges towards one another. To not be prejudiced is important. And to know that everybody has their land. Turkey is a very cool spot. I'd love to be talking about Turkey right now. Turkey in Jubilees, I learned so much. Turkey, Istanbul, that little piece of water that divides that land is the division between Japheth's lands and Shem's lands. There's an ancient meeting point of people, an ancient meeting point of cultures. Constantinople, where people came together. So there's a lot of cool history, and I'd love to be able to visit Turkey when I don't feel like I'm going to be prejudiced against, or people are going to be prejudiced against me just because I am a Zionist, because I am a Jewish person who is also Israeli, who is an Israelite, who believes in the right of Jews to live in the Holy Land, obviously, because there's no other place where we have as much of a right to live in this world. And gosh darn it, we have a right to live. We have a right to exist. God loves us very much, just as God loves you, Janan.